The Aries Solar Fire Ritual. Processional and Alleluia. We gather at a holy time, a time propitious to invoke the cosmic Lord of unrelenting will, the Lord who with his fiat irresistible propels the 12-fold wheel to turn upon its evolutionary path, thus plunging lives of vast or tiny scope into the cycle of rebirth. Lord of the ever-new is he, the Lord who sums the harvest of the great wheels past into a vibrant seed of future life, then plants that seed within the virgin soil of space to grow the forms of solar spheres and their attendant planetary orbs. He, the Lord of ideation, holding fast as law and will original intent of one far greater than himself. He, the monarch of the mind, our local cosmosphere, his mind-born son. He, the architect of pulsing life within the vast zodiacal sphere. He, director of the cosmic concept to be wrought into experience as the eons pass away. And his the will peremptory, which bends all lesser wills unto the great zodiacal task. Vast in power is he, vast at least to those such as the tiny unit man, and e'en unto man's planetary God. Though truly in humility, he, the Lord of Aries, simply serves the one who stands to him as master, the one of whom naught may be said. Aretian Lord, Alpha's Lord, Lord of bold commencement, teach us to begin in faith and power all that must be realized above, and all that must be actualized below. Teach us to inaugurate with courage our small part to play within the mighty plan of God. We gather now within the stream of solar fire, streaming from the constellation Aries. For through our solar logos blue pass all the rays of all the heavenly 12. Thus solarized these rays become, adapted for our better use upon this fragile earth. But from Aries, most of all from Aries, pours electric fire as well, a fire of towering and dynamic strength, demanding utmost caution of all those who place themselves within its roaring current. For electric fire is the fire of life, endangering the form until the day has come when spirit claims the right of its release. And yet, though peril stark attends the impact of electric fire, some definite beginning must be made by those who seek ascent of spirit. For doubtless and with certainty, the reign of form in all its modes, its solar modes as well, must one day end, though dire the course of liberation to be born. Thus does Aries, sign of all initiative, signal the beginning of the end that leads to resurrection and to life, initiated through the application of electric fire. In silence let us all revere the foremost Lord among the 12, he who lights the holy fire of freedom, setting all our world ablaze with life. He who drives us through enslaved conditions, till the wondrous day when we return in bliss, conditionless and free. Let us honor Aries, Lord of electric fire. Invocation of the first and seventh rays. Through the constellation Aries, the alpha and preeminent power among the 12, pass 2 rays upon the line of will, the first and seventh. The first ray, who with might declares the law, who drives the spirit into form, while ever poised supreme above the fray. And then, when form has been fulfilled, extracts again the spirit from its prison, into synthesis and freedom, withdrawing fire immersed into the one and only fire indivisible. The first ray is the foremost ray of Aries. And then the seventh ray, who when expressing through the holy ram, compels below the rhythm which accords with higher law. For many customary rhythms do not so accord. Order does this ray demand, and regimented life, for each and all at length must march precisely to the beat of the shambolic drum, march in time, for destiny which cannot be deferred awaits. We stand within this dual stream of fiery will invincible and of ordered, lawful rhythm, a rhythm through which lawful will is in compassion forced upon those subject to its sway. For these two rays pursue their task together, enforcing and upholding, giving strength and fibre to the lesser forms of life which must obey, guaranteeing that these lowly, slowly rising forms may win the day in strength and in perfection. Let us breathe within our aura the scarlet red of Ray the First, most powerful in Aries, then with an Om direct it towards its healing mission on the earth. Let us breathe within our aura the violet of Ray the Seventh, then with an Om direct it towards its healing mission on the earth. In concert with the will of God, we see these rays, the red and violet, passing through the constellation Aries, the Lord of resurrection and eternal life. Thence passing to our home, the earth, who suffers, long awaiting its assured upliftment into lighted sacred life. At this our time of monthly invocation, we focus our attention on the cardinal cross of heavens, the highest of the crosses three, upon which e'en the Lord of Lords himself, the ancient youth, stands firm, steadfast in his fixed intent to save and resurrect. Upon this cross dwell those who truly live, the ones who hold the promise of what struggling and bemired man may one day hope to be. Cardinal lives, lives forever free, free at least of those depressed conditions which oppress the man of earth and form. These greater beings too must have their struggles, but of such a kind that tiny man can know but naught, nor need he know for now. the lowliest of cardinal lives, stands for man upon a height supreme, and thither must man rise in time. Towards the cardinal cross man ever longs, though in his primal phase he knows it not. For man at root is spirit, and the spirit must express in fullness this its chief demand. The cardinal cross, the cross of spirit, is for man as spirit home, a home unto his being true. The Spirit is the author of that urgent discontent divine, which drives the questing human being ever upwards to his destined lofty place, wherefrom at last a ruler he may be, and not a slave. Ruler of the lower spheres of subjugated durance. Thus let the will be spurred to new exertions, that cardinal life may be attained. Four signs are found upon this first, and yet the last of crosses three. The cross of man departing from the earth into the kingdom of the will. But Aries, first and foremost of them all, is more potent at this time. Thus let us focus mind and spirit on the Lord, whose will, which cannot be subdued, initiates the vast zodiacal round, and on three circling deities who carry out that will. The first, a planetary lord of war and fiery strife, but of valor and bravery as well. He the God who plucks our courage, so that we may face the foe and overcome. The higher spheres of cosmos sound as harmony resplendent. The lower spheres are spheres of war and battle unabating. Whether or no one so desires, each and all must fight. Fight their way to resurrection, fight for the right to ascend. The harmony of heaven is won alone through war and strife, and over all this combat Mars is Lord. The second planetary lord is intimate unto the solar sphere, bearing 7 times the solar light that travels to our little darkened earth. He the God of mind entire, he a God of intuition, he the swiftest of the local gods, who in his wondrous speed unites all spheres into a sudden oneness. The radiance of his luminescence yields a calor hugely threatening to the dark of ancient ignorance. Incendiary mind, he ignites illusion's jungle, which for long had sealed the rays of solar wisdom from man's sight. He, the fearless, clear-eyed guiding God into the mysteries of life, demanding that each human being enquire the way and thus return to Source. The third and highest Lord is God of lightning, God of storm. He who sets the burning ground ablaze with fire electric. He who shocks all human beings to yield unto transmuting flame impurity and dross, and thus be free. He, the Lord of Spirit, of the highest fire resident in man, demanding that this fire descend, imparting its intensity, its archetypal purity to every form below. 'Tis he who wills vibrational conformity of baseness to the heights. He sets the tempo of the fiery dancing, faster, ever faster, till the spirit dances bliss within the form. Let us focus on the firm intent that all who breathe may one day know and do the will of God, and in that doing find their freedom, even as they recreate the lower worlds as God would have them be. In the center of the will of God I stand. Naught shall deflect my will from His. I implement that will by love. I turn towards the field of service. I, the triangle divine, work out that will within the square, and serve my fellow men. Together and as one, we step within the aura of the Lord of fiery will, and place ourselves within the mighty stream of fire electric. In union with the first and most commanding Lord of all the 12, we pledge to do our utmost to initiate on earth the plan of God. We pledge to do the will of Him whose sacrifice preserves us from defeat, the destitution of all those who darkened lose their way upon the homeward way. We pledge to act with fortitude and virile power to drive the world towards its salvation through fulfillment of the will divine. May the strength required descend upon our lives. Let us seek the root of power, the root of that which drives the dance of all the worlds. Is it found within a single form, even if that form be vast, a form as vast as cosmos? No, never can this be. Securely hidden is the root of roots. Though every form of life wields power, though every form except the lowest dominates a lesser form, and every form seeks power so that it may rise to greater power, and thus ascend unto the freedom which has ever been, yet no form is root of its own power. No entity, however great, is powerful in itself. The power sought can never really be its own, for entities are all unreal. The root of roots is not. The greatest of all entities is but a mite compared to that which ever is. Power rests in being. The deity supreme, who has no name and never will, is alone source of every power. Fire in cosmos is the power of powers, the one and only cosmic life, and yet a lesser life compared to that, which is of life, the life itself. Ever in the cosmos shall our power increase, until the power we possess is but the power of the One. Yet powerless are we in essence, lest we know ourselves as that which lies at power's root. In Aries we seek mounting power, and know our might will grow. In Aries we become the fire, and rise into the cosmic flame. This is good, so be it. But let us not forget the one eternal life, who is the life of fire, and the rootless root of power. Infinitely more than power, infinitely more than fire, is that which we truly are.
We sing the one eternal life, the one who reigns forever, the one who reigns forever, the one who reigns forever. We are the one eternal life, eternal life forever, eternal life forever.
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder the eternity of that, the ever-living God we are at root. Let us ponder God, the source of fire. Is eternity a concept we can grasp? Does the word forever force our mind into submission? Are we daunted by the grandeur of the thought? Or can we rise, at least, into some semblance of cognition? Are we this life, or are we not? If we are, how must we think? How must we live? What would it mean for us to live in the eternal, and know the self as one? Let us ponder. Let all take their positions on the fourfold field of early days, blind to all but wanton exaltation of the form. The might of fire, when first interred in earth, is blind and raging, for spirit ever struggles to be free. It struggles for the life of uncontained expanse, which well it knew before encased in lunar life. Thus early man, who driven by a fire more relentless than this feeble mind can know, turns fierce and savage, wild, extreme. His cruel ways, in deepest truth, are but rebellion 'gainst the cold confinement of the spirit fire he is. That fire would be free. But the channel of intelligence which could provide that freedom in a way respectful of the form will not be built until the pole of earth has turned upon itself at least 100 times. As yet, the heart of love beats not except as heat to hold the life in form. The radiant fires of higher realms have darkened with their fall into the flesh, and thus the man, loving but himself alone, runs riot o'er the lives of others, who for him are but the means of coarsest satisfaction. The little I, but barely formed, is selfishness supreme. The fury of that selfishness is boundless. Thus many are the victims trampled under foot, victims of the frenzy of a self gone wild in predatory ignorance. Madness reigns, redness rules. The higher dance of life has now become the gross and violent dance of rage. Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder on a force so violent and so selfish that it cannot be contained. A force which satisfies itself at any cost. Though we would that it were otherwise, this rampant force still lives, untransmuted, undirected, released in full through war. Scan the world and see this rampant force. Scan the self and understand ineradicable roots of that which hisses still within the lower psychic depths. How then shall the savage power, still running its destructive course within the hearts and minds of humankind, be redirected soundly unto greater, higher ends? Let us ponder. Let us form a marching army, trampling over all who dare oppose. The ignorant and savage state, which runs its heartless course through eons, subtly alters aspect, though the basic motive changes not. Vicious selfishness still rules. The red of wild desire becomes at once more lethal and refined. Violence becomes an ordered way of life. The murderous man now joins the ranks of those who share his love of blood, not only for his own defense, but all the better to lay waste, all the better to destroy. War becomes the chosen means for seizing what the darkened heart desires. Now the man is justified by those who march with him at arms. Now he has a sanctioned reason to indulge in murder, pillage, and rapine. A bloody clot still blinds his eye. Red still rules and runs his life. Regret, remorse, why should he care? Contrition, conscience, what are they? Might the victor over right. He marches without mercy on the red, red way of war.
I march to the drum of the God of war. I march to the drama of wrath. I cast down all who stand before. I march upon my bloody path. Red, red, red is the way of desire. Scarlet red is the way of war. I conquer all upon my way. I triumph swiftly o'er my foes. My enemies I boldly slay. None will hear who dares oppose. Red, red, red is the way of desire. Scarlet red is the way of war. Unto live
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder well the organized brutality called war. Why does it arise? Wherein truly lies its cause? What is its result? Is war an evil absolute, as cultured man so oft contends? Or can some wars be justified? What of war within our very selves? Do we fight? Should we fight? Who or what the real ally or foe? In silent objectivity, let us ponder deeply. Let us scatter on the fourfold field, pursued by those our lust for power has injured gravely. The law of karma is exact and cannot be denied. Violence must come again upon the one who sent it forth. Blood will flow from out the veins of those whose spears have plunged into their victims' hearts. Life by the sword is death by the sword. The deadly thrust returns with equal fury. Destruction breeds destruction. This icy law demands. Justly, the offender is pursued. He who warred for selfish ends relentlessly is overcome, and made to feel the bitter pain remorselessly inflicted. And thus a cycle ends. Or does it end? Will this retribution be the cause of further wars? Or will it bring the hardened man to some degree of softness and of feeling for the rights of those he trampled under foot when he felt not? The purpose of the blow rebounding is to right the wrong of former days, and to set the balance straight. But bitter pain must first be felt. There is no other way. Retributive destruction is the prelude to a better, higher, kinder way of life.
From the east, from the west, from the north and south, they pursued me, they pursued me. From the east, from the west, from the north and south, they sought me to destroy me. From the land, from the sea, from the sky to the fire, they pursued me, they pursued me. From the land, from the sea, from the sky to the fire, they sought me to destroy me. Now I am repaid, now I am repaid. For heartlessness and cruelty, I am well repaid. Now I feel the pain, now I feel the searing pain. My callousness, hard-heartedness, have earned the hurt I sorely feel, have earned the pain I'm forced to bear. At last I feel the pain that I have given. At last I feel the pain that I have given. I sorely feel the rending, searing pain. My enemies have laid me low, have vanquished me their one-time foe, and not of mercy will they show. My enemies have destroyed me, destroyed me, destroyed me. My enemies have destroyed me, destroyed me, destroyed me. My enemies, my enemies, my enemies have destroyed me. My enemies have destroyed me. My enemies have destroyed me. My enemies have destroyed
me. Meditation. Let us ponder on the grim necessity of pain, the imperative destruction of a way of life, and e'en of living form itself. Recall the past. Recall a time of retribution, when the wolves of fate were at the door, wherein lay original offense. What needed be destroyed, so that balance be restored? What was learned? See with mindful clarity. Who or what can now be called one's enemy? Does one have an enemy? And if so, is the enemy of any use? Ponder on the purpose of adversity, e'en though it threaten everyone and everything that we hold dear. Let us form again an army on the march, but marching not for carnage, but for revelation of the light. retribution has its beauty unforeseen. The bloody clot before the eye dissolves. The bond of selfishness now broken, if not utterly removed, the driving fire burns just as fiercely, but with note transformed, refined. It rises through the newly unobstructed inner paths, stimulating higher thoughts and motives of a nobler kind. With selfishness now somewhat held at bay, low desire and aggression seen for what they really are, the newborn man pursues a higher way. His eye beholds a dawning light. A vision of a path to virtue now appears. The drums of war are silenced, but the drum of zeal is beating still, calling forth a lighter, loftier rhythm from his pounding heart and restless feet. Again a march begins. Again the warriors march, but towards a high ideal instead of ravage and rapine. Hope born again of stark defeat, the one reborn in pain, enemy no more of light, marches towards the light with highest hope.
My heart is beating, my hopeful heart is beating, and the drum of my heart beats a rhythm, the rhythm of the march to the light. This once again the march begins, but a march towards goodness, towards our truth. We're marching in the service of the highest light, and Mars is the Lord of the march. No more the way of hatefulness, no more the way of spitefulness, no more the way of selfishness, as we march toward the knowing of the light. And my heart is beating, my hopeful heart is beating, and the drum of my heart beats a rhythm, the rhythm of the march to the right. Yes, once again the march begins, but the march towards beauty, towards Oratorio. We're marching in the service of the highest light.
Meditation. In meditation deep, ponder on the high ideals which motivate all humankind. Ponder on the vigor and enthusiasm spent to reach a distant, longed-for goal. See and sense the value of the driving march to light. Then focus on the nature of your own ideals. For ideals in the truest sense are of the soul. What vision lies ahead for you? And is your ardor, born of higher Mars, keen and true and strong enough to help you reach your destined goal? Are you in soul and spirit marching to the inner drum of love and truth and power in rhythm right? Ponder on the march to the east. Let us form the twisted jungle of unillumined thought, which captures those who do not really see the light. To pursue a goal unselfishly with faith and ardor is no guarantee that one will find the truth. Fervor and devotion, though antidotes to callousness and base desire, are insufficient means to free the man from Maya's snares. Illusion yields not to hopeful fantasy, for even vision ardently pursued may be elusive. Envisioning a higher, better way is good, but rarely good enough to set the hopeful seeker free. Chasing many insubstantial dreams which promise premature release, he is forced to face obstruction still more hindering than his ancient selfishness. The wall of his own ignorance, the wall of darkened mind, the wall of blatant misconception of the world, its lives, its ways. The roaring power of Mars no longer serves to reach the real goal. His former vision vanished, desolate, alone. The seeker knows himself ensnared within the Maya of the mind, lost and all entangled in the jungle of illusion.
So clear, so utterly pristine,
The truth which vanished silent at my close approach, tempting me, deriding me, I deluded it strangled in the shadows of the mind. The viscous tendrils of illusion hold me fast. I cannot turn, I cannot see. The mocking lie I took for truth imprisons me in sightlessness and gloom. I am lost, lost, lost in the jungle of illusion. I am lost, lost, lost in the jungle of
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder on the nature of illusion. Let us ponder on its subtlety. Are we caught within its snares, yet know it not? Is our reading of the world a misconception, based on errors rooted deep and undetected? Remember disillusionment. How did it come into our lives? Do we welcome disillusionment, though its dawning be through pain? Do we know the one illusion that debilitates us most, and what to do to end its strangling hold upon us? Let us ponder deeply. Let us form the glyph of Mercury, the god of intuition, whose fire burns to naught the jungle of illusion. The mind is slayer of the real, 'tis said, and often true. But mind reveals the real as well, when sparked by deepened insight. Ordinary knowing never serves to end the bondage of the knower to elusive mind. The mind must reach a point of flaming, fervent heat to set ablaze the ancient tree. The ancient tree become a jungle to the one who wills to know the very root of knowledge whence the tree has sprung. Knowledge used at whitest heat becomes the flame of intuition, liberator from the dreaded jungle, the jungle of illusion, consuming all obstructive tinder of the mind. Then will separation be no more. Then will end the blindness of perceived division. Then will cause and its effect be swiftly seen as one. Thus will vision come again, not the hopeful empty vision of a former guileless puerile age, but vision true, a vision which alone appears but through the ministrations of the swiftest God, the God who rules all levels of the mind and makes them one. Thus the ancient jungle of illusion will dissolve in synergistic flame, and reason pure ascend unto its true and rightful place within the consciousness of man.
Mercury, bright Mercury, flame of brilliance, flame of truth. Mercury, bright Mercury, light resilience, wisdom soothe.
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder on the light of intuition, on the flash transforming all the many into one. What would be the nature of our lives if the veil of dense illusion lifted? If the spell of separation vanished in a suddenness of sight? Suppose illumined mind were freed to serve the soul and spirit. How must we use the brilliant light of Mercury to banish all illusions which pervert our understanding of the real? Let us ponder. Upon the fourfold field again we take our place, but this time members of the army of illumined mind. Ruling now as once he ruled from brutish strength alone, the one who has subdued illusion now emerges from his home of inner light, and governs well the lower lunar form. He, the former man of passion, knows dispassion and detachment. He, the former man of impulse, knows a fiery, cool restraint. He, the erstwhile rebel 'gainst the higher will, now wields the law divine. He regulates his mind so that his thought and speech reflect essentiality, the wisdom of God's plan. With fortitude and discipline, he quells rebellion in the lower spheres. The lower worlds become the fields for manifesting that which God, the greater soul, intends. Forth he comes from the plane of mind, and rules the errant force which not long ago ruled him.
Possessing radiant consciousness of creation.
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder order and control, the rebellions in the world and in the self which must be quelled. Does imposition have no uses? Must all impulse be expressed? Is not wise suppression often needed so that greater values may emerge? Let us ponder on our lives. What are the psychic insurrective forces which we wisely should subdue if we would progress? What lesser lunar tendencies cry out for swift arrest? Have we the will to regulate the lesser lives, though they demand expression inappropriate? Let us ponder on our willingness to rule and see the truth as now it stands. Upon the fourfold field we stand, each of us a lightning rod for spirit fire. The man of regulation has achieved a needed domination over form, contended well with all the wayward forces which would overthrow him as in bygone days. Thus he is in control of body and of mind, but more, far more, there is to be attained. The victory in spirit which he seeks is not yet his. In fact, the major battles lie ahead. And all the wars of former years but served as needed training for the warrior on the higher way. Now his vision widens, and his mind encompasses in clarity a destiny which may be his, if will and perseverance fail him not. Through Mars he has arisen from the baseness of his ego. Through Mercury his mind has brightened into radiance, risen into power. But heaven is not his, the fiery kingdom is not his, and this he sorely feels. To enter through the fiery gates he must be like unto the fire. To tread the burning ground he now must burn. But fire will not descend upon the one who seeks it not. nor fails to understand the dire cost. The time for total sacrifice has come. This he surely knows. Thus prepared in spirit and resolved in mind and will, in sacrifice he calls for that which will destroy the man he was. To the lightning god he calls, to Uranus who changes all forever. He violently shouts for heaven's thunderbolts, that he himself, erupting into flame, become the burning ground, and burning thus may gain the right of entry through the closely guarded portal to the kingdom of God's fire.
Send the lightning down, down, send the lightning down. Fire, fire, fire on the burning ground. Before me stand the gates of heaven, the kingdom of the will. Why should I not enter of life to drink my fill? Send the lightning down, down, send the lightning down. Fire, fire, fire on the burning ground. To stand before the Lord of Lords, I'll gladly pay the price. Let my life erupt in flames, my will is lent on sacrifice. Send the lightning down, down, send the lightning down. Fire, fire, fire on the burning ground. And once within the holy gates, before the Lord of might, I'll share with all the fire of life, a willing servant of the right. For the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent take it by force. Send the lightning down, down, send the lightning down. Fire, fire, fire on the burning ground. Storming, storming, storming the gates of heaven. Storming, storming, storming the gates of heaven. Send the lightning down, down, send the lightning down. Fire, 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 fire. Fire, 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 fire. Fire on the burning ground, 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 fire on the burning ground.
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder on the fire which races through us, the fire that we are. Many are the fires within the little system we call man, the fires of heaven and the fires of hell. Which ones do we use and why? Or do we act unwisely, extinguishing the very flame which could and would consume our dross? How can the righteous fire within our lives arise and burn? What must we do if we would be the burning ground itself? Let each of us demand the fire of heaven to descend. Demand it if we will, demand it if we dare. Let us form the flame of sacrifice as symbol of the purifying fire we must all learn to endure. And when the fire of heaven descends, as ever when the call is true it must, will the man withstand the flame, or cry out for relief? Will he be destroyed, for lives set back in painful reparation? Or will he rise empowered by the swift descending flame? A certain answer cannot be foreseen. Many call too early, and cannot withstand the fire. Some call out in foolishness, before the lower fires are quelled and relegated to their proper spheres. Surely none will bear the fire unless the fire of sacrifice already burns within his heart and mind. The fire of will demands the fire of love, or it cannot hope to be received aright. Love must be the vessel of reception, the grail beneath the flame. Thus low in prayer the man ascending bows, and dedicates his growing power unto the Lord and lords, in strict fulfillment of that greater will, so that the fire of heaven may be used for heavenly ends upon the earth. To bear the heavenly fire demands the sacrifice of all. Only he who bows in utter abnegation of the lesser self can rise in resurrection to his Lord in the fiery world.
Make of me a sacrifice.
Meditation. In solemnity profound, let us search within to find the will to sacrifice. Let us know the deep equality of sacrifice, will, and love. Let us search ourselves profoundly, and find all baseness we must give unto the flame, if we would stand before the Lord of Lords, and rise into the company of those who do his will in love. The seed must fall into the earth. Life continues thus. The loving heart must shed its blood for all. How may we become the fiery sacrifice, thus entering the world of beauty and of bliss? Let us ponder deeply. Alone and to the desert driven, we find ourselves again upon the fourfold field, yet ready for the coming pain, endured for the sake of love. Of old they drove the scapegoat forth into the barren wilderness. They drove it with ferocity into the arid wastes, cursed, reviled, and spurned it, the sins of all the people heaped upon its groaning back. For thus the maddened people thought they could evade the karmic cost of evil long amassed. The one who wills to sacrifice his life for good is also banished from the throngs of men, for they will not abide the presence of a human being who means them well. They will drive him forth, or violently destroy him, thus taking from him forcibly all that he would gladly give in service to the race and to the fire of higher love. The fire of earth will not endure the presence of the fire of heaven. Extinguishers of darkness pounce upon the rising flame. But greater is the fire of love than all the machinations of the ones it seems to threaten so. The more they strive to put it out, the more it rises to consume the world. Thus is love the conqueror of all attempts against it. though his body be destroyed by those who hate the love they fear. Invincible is he who rises, as the Lord of Lords has risen through the sacrifice of all.
They drove me into the wilderness, heaping all the sins upon me, heaping the sins upon me. But gladly I will take them, gladly I will take them. Take them, receive them all within my soul. For the bitter be the burden, the cruel and unjust the spite. It is love I return, it is love I will return, always and forever, in the name of the great sacrifice. Avalon I will return, for hatred and abuse. They pursued me into the wilderness, seeking again to destroy me, seeking again to destroy me. But this time for the good that I have done, and not the ill. Yet I will take their It is love I return. It is love I will return. It is love and love alone I will return forevermore.
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder our ability to offer love for hate, goodwill for abuse. Can we fathom why it is that hatred ceaseth not through hatred? Can we fathom how it is that love forever conquers all? Is there aught in our experience that confirms that this is so? Let us recollect and understand the alchemy of love. Let us stand upon the fourfold field, each a flame of ascent from death to endless life. Fire by its nature surges upwards. Fire is of heaven, and it rises to its source. The resurrecting one returns the gift of fire unto the God who gave it forth. The one who gives his life to fire ascends in fire unto the fire. This is the law of life. This is the law of sacrifice. This is the law of those who choose to die, that they and all may live. Can revilement ever thwart them? Can danger make them flee? Can loss of love and all the heart holds dear make them retreat? Fire calls unto its own. The man of fire ascends, e'en though the boot of matter crush his neck beneath its heel. Let those who would ascend unto the Lord of Lords through being declare for immortality, and place their faith in fire. Declare for immortality, the overthrow of lying, jeering death. Let the fire they are and have become through purity and truth forever rise despite all outward downward draws. Despite all subjugation, let resurrection swift become the rising and resounding note for all who love the Lord of life, and love the fire of heaven in which he reigns. Meditation. In meditation deep, let us seek to understand the laws which stimulate ascent, and opposed the lower forces marshaled for destruction of the human soul. Will we ascend, or be abjectly dragged below? Below into servility to ancient lunar life. The fateful choice is ours. Would we rise in flame, or be extinguished through the choice of lower, darker fire? What must we do to live in fire, and thus to rise, and in rising lift? Let us ponder deeply. Let us bow in silence before our planet's greatest Lord, the youth of endless summers. And if a human being ascend, whither the ascent? What lies behind the great ordeal of leaving earth behind in spirit, even though the body and the lesser man remain committed to a better and more vibrant life for all below? Why and whither the ascent which resurrection brings? Ascending brings the rising one into the company of all who serve with light and love and power the Lord of Lords. Ascending brings the rising one into the presence of the King. For our earth and for our globe, he alone is King of fire. He the fiery synthesis, Aretian youth of endless summers. He the resurrection and the life. He who would ascend must pay the price as Christ has paid it. Become the living sacrifice in order that the King of Kings may live and love within him, as he lived and loved within the Christ our Lord. Thus resurrection is the royal road unto the rising sun of life. Thus resurrection is the rising flame unto the King of fire. May we bow low in understanding reverence before the sapphire throne of God the King. Meditation. Let us meditate in silence, as if we stood within the presence of the youth eternal, King of fire. We form in joy the circle of the gods, to dance the dance of Shiva, foremost of them all. Freedom of the higher spheres, and helpfulness with unimagined potency within the lower worlds below, these are now achieved. The one who has ascended to the presence of the ancient and eternal youth knows himself as life itself. The little self he was is left behind, below, negated through his understanding of the fire. What is life? What is death? Never as they seemed before. Liberated now he stands, identified as essence, pervading all the cosmic sphere. What of joy? What of grief? Can they be the same to him now that he has risen into life? What of good? What of ill? Can any of the opposites abide the thundering synthesis of life? No, they cannot do so. Not again throughout this breath of fire we call the cosmic sphere. Thus has real freedom come, but in that freedom what remains to do? To serve, to love, to lift, indeed all true. But best of all, to dance. The one who has become the life, the one identified as life, lives the life through dancing. The fiery one, the risen one, now master of vibration, has become the Lord of dance, has become in inmost recess Shiva, God of life and death. Shiva, blissful Lord of fiery cosmic dance.
Dancing with joy upon a burning ground, dancing life, dancing death, dancing, dancing to the thrilling song, dancing the dance of Shiva. Dance, 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 the dance of Shiva. Dance, 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 the dance of Shiva. Shiva. Dance, 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 dance. We dance of Shiva. Dance, 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 dance. We dance of Shiva. Dancing the cosmic dance. Dancing the universal trance. Dancing the world's vastest dance. We dance the dance of Shiva. Dance, 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 dance. We dance the dance of Shiva. Dancing, 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 dancing the dance of Shiva. The fiery cosmos is a cosmic dance. The fiery dance of Shiva.
Meditation. In meditation deep, let us ponder cosmos. Is it real? Is it not? Is it fire? Is it dancing fire? What indeed is fire? Let us see the vastness of the cosmos as the one and only dance of fire, and let us dance within the fire we see. We form the circle of our Logos blue, the God of loving fire, for earth and all the circling orbs within his system of love wisdom. What remains for us but to praise the one and only God of fire? To magnify the God of fire with all our heart and soul. We who dwell within the fire are but that fire itself. We who dwell within the one have risen to become the one we are and always were. From the fire, through the fire, to the fire who sent us forth. What remains to do but rejoice in the fire we are?
To the flame all hearts
From fire we come forth, to fire we return. Countless, inexhaustible, the dancing fires of life. Uncountable except to him who ever and alone remains the one, and who, indeed, is he. Fire are we, and fire we have ever been, when cosmos there has been. And yet not always have we been the fire, for greater than the fire is fire's source, the self. The self which we dare not call fire, for it is nameless ever, and all naming but defiles it into finitude. Of that source must nothing more be said. But when we are in cosmos, we are fire, and when we are a cosmos, we are fire. Fire of darkness, fire of form, fire of wisdom, fire of spirit, fire indivisible, which laughs division to obliteration. From fire we come forth, to fire we return. As fire we dance the cosmos through the long duration of its breath. Then let us dance the dance of fire, the blissful dance of fire. Let us be the blissful, deathless fire. Then, as wisdom adds to wisdom, we may well and truly say, I come forth, and from the plane of mind I rule. Together, I come forth, and from the plane of mind I rule. Let us return to the magical circle of invocation. If anyone has aught to say for the welfare of the group and of the world, this is the time to speak. Let us sound the ancient mantram of the new and dawning age. The Great Invocation.